Hello, students, and welcome to lesson number 3, Iswaran, the Storyteller, written by R.K. Lakshman. This lesson belongs to the supplementary reader Moments. The title of this chapter, Iswaran, the Storyteller, tells us that this story is about Iswaran. He is called the storyteller because, as storytelling is an art, he is very good at it. He uses special effects, he does voice modulation, uses his body language to make the story so realistic that the listener gets attracted and captivated to his story. The writer wants to highlight this quality of Ishwaran, that he was so good at telling stories that they appeared to be real. His stories were a source of entertainment for Mahendra. Now, before beginning with the actual lesson, I'd like to give you some information about the author, R.K. Lakshman. Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Iyer Lakshman was an Indian cartoonist, illustrator, and humorist. He is best known for his creation, The Common Man, and for his daily cartoon strip, You Said It, in the Times of India, which started in 1951. He was born on the 24th of October 1921 in Mysore, and he has achieved Lifetime Achievement Award for Journalism and many more. Now let us go to the lesson. One night Mahendra woke up from his sleep and saw a dark cloudy form. He broke out into a cold sweat. Was it a ghost? So let us read and find out. The story was narrated to Ganesh by a young man Mahendra by name. He was a junior supervisor in a firm which offered on hire supervisors at various types of construction sites, factories, bridges, dams, and so on. Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the activities at the work site. He had to keep moving from place to place every now and then, as ordered by his head office, from a coal mining area to a railway bridge construction site, from there after a few months to a chemical plant which was coming up somewhere. So, as we can see, children, at the beginning of the lesson, we can see that the main characters in this lesson are Mahendra and Ishwaran. But here, Mahendra is a man who is telling this story to Ganesh, who is another young man. Now, Mahendra is a junior supervisor in a company, in a firm that offers on hire. That means they are not like, they are given on contract basis to various construction sites. It could be a factory construction site, a bridge, a dam, a road. So the his company used to give supervisors on hire, and so Mahendra had a temporary job for a few months at different places, and as such he had to keep moving from place to place. Sometimes it used to be a coal mining area, sometimes it used to be a railway bridge construction site, and sometimes a chemical plant which was coming up in the middle of some place. Now, his description: Mahendra was a bachelor. His needs were very simple. Now, bachelor means a person who is unmarried. His needs were very simple. He was able to adjust himself to all kinds of odd conditions, whether it was an ill equipped circuit house or a makeshift canvas tent in the middle of a stone quarry. But one asset he had was his cook, Ishwaran. The cook was quite attached to Mahendra and followed him uncomplainingly wherever he was posted. He cooked for Mahendra, washed his clothes, chatted away with his master at night, and he could weave out endless stories and anecdotes on various subjects. Now, first of all, as I said, a bachelor is a man who is unmarried. He is not yet married. Then makeshift. Makeshift is a temporary, for a temporary period of time, and quarry is a mine. Then anecdote is a short or amusing story about a real incident or person. So, in this paragraph, what do we see? That Mahendra is a supervisor. He is unmarried, and so since his job is temporary, he has to go from one place to another for maybe a few months at a time. And because of that, since he had no family, no children, no wife, he was able to adjust to all kind of odd conditions, whether it was a circuit house which did not have much facilities, or he was able to live in a canvas tent in the middle of a stone, like a mine where they dug out stone. And one plus point that he had was his cook, and his cook's name was Ishwaran. And the cook was quite attached to him. So wherever he went, his cook went along with him. And he cooked for him, he washed his clothes, and he always kept him company, like chatted with him, and he wove wonderful stories and told so many incidents about people. So he kept him very amused. Now let us continue reading. Ishwaran also had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of a desolate landscape with no shops visible for miles around. He would miraculously conjure up the most delicious dishes made with fresh vegetables within an hour of arriving at the zinc sheet shelter at the new workplace. Now, let us have a look at the new words. Desolate means which is uninhabited, where nobody lives, which is empty. And conjure up means to create, just as if by magic. So, Ishwaran was Mahendra's cook, and he had a wonderful capacity of getting vegetables and ingredients seemingly out of nowhere. He must have brought them along with him wherever he went, but it seemed like here there was no shops, no vegetables, and yet Ishwaran could within no time, within 1 hour of coming to a new place, he would unpack, he would arrange everything and have the most delicious dishes available made from fresh vegetables. And they had to live in zinc sheet shelter, that means in temporary shelters at any new workplace. Then Mahendra would be up early in the morning and he would leave for work after breakfast, carrying some prepared food with him. Meanwhile, Ishwaran would tidy up the shed, wash the clothes, have a leisurely bath, pouring several buckets of water over his head, muttering a prayer all the while. It would be lunch time by then, and after eating, he would read for a while before dozing off. And the book was usually some popular Tamil thriller running to hundreds of pages. Its imaginative descriptions and narrative flourishes would hold Ishwaran in thrall. Now, the new words are muttering. Muttering is speaking in a low voice, so he would keep on praying. And enthrall is to the state of being in someone's power, to hold somebody in fascination. So Mahendra, like this, they're telling us about Mahendra's timetable. Mahendra would get up early in the morning and he would have breakfast and leave for work, and he would carry some small tiffin. Ishwaran would prepare some food for him to take along with him, and so he would leave. And then in the meantime, after Mahendra left, Ishwaran would tidy up the whole shed, he would wash the clothes, he would have a nice leisurely bath, there was no hurrying up, he would pour several buckets of water, and all the while he would be muttering a prayer. And then by the time he finished all this work, it would be lunchtime. So he would have his lunch and then he was fond of reading, so he would read for a while and then he would doze off. That means he would have a short nap. And the book that he was reading was normally a very popular Tamil thrillers, and that also they were quite fat, running to hundreds of pages. And there were a lot of imaginative descriptions and narrative flourishes, means very detailed descriptions, and that would hold him fascinated for a long time. Now let us continue reading. His own descriptions were greatly influenced by the Tamil authors that he read. When he was narrating even the smallest of incidents, he would try to work in suspense and a surprise ending into the account. For example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, he would say with eyebrows suitably arched and hands held out in a dramatic gesture, "The road was deserted and I was all alone. Suddenly I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. I was half inclined to turn and go back, but as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree with its dry branches spread out. Mahendra would stretch himself back in his canvas chair and listen to Ishwaran's tales uncritically. So, here as we can see, after we have seen what was Mahendra and Ishwaran's daily routine or timetable, whenever he told a story, he was greatly influenced by the Tamil authors that he had read. And so, whenever he told the simplest of stories, he would, try to weave in some suspense and a surprise ending. And in case he was telling about an uprooted tree on the highway, he wouldn't say it in a simple manner. He would say it with great expression, with his eyebrows suitably arched, that means in a curve, and he would use his hands to gesture very dramatically. He would say, "The road was deserted, there was no one, I was all alone, and suddenly I saw something like a big bushy beast." And then he would say, "I was thinking I would go back, but then when I came closer, I saw it was a fallen tree." And Mahendra knew the normal storytelling tactics of Ishwaran. So he would stretch out very nicely in his canvas chair and he would listen to Ishwaran's tales without judging him. So let us continue reading further. "The place I come from is famous for timber," Ishwaran would begin. "There is a richly wooded forest all around. The logs are hauled onto the lorries by elephants. They are huge, well fed beasts. When they turn wild, even the most experienced mahout is not able to control them." After this prologue, Ishwaran would launch into an elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. One day, a tusker escaped from the timber yard and began to roam about, stamping on bushes, tearing up wild creepers, and breaking branches at will. "You know, sir, how an elephant behaves when it goes mad." Ishwaran would get so caught up in the excitement of his own story that he would get up from the floor and jump about, stamping his feet in emulation of the mad elephant. "The elephant reached the outskirts of our town, breaking the fences down like matchsticks," he would continue. "It came into the main road and smashed all the stalls selling fruits, mud pots, and clothes. People ran helter skelter in panic. The elephant now entered a school ground where children were playing, breaking through the brick wall." Okay, so let's stop here and continue with the new words. Now, what is the meaning of prologue? Prologue means an introductory speech. Elaborate means a very detailed description. Then emulation. Emulation means to imitate or to copy somebody. And helter skelter means here and there. So then Ishwaran would tell Mahendra the place that he came from was very famous for timber. Now, timber is commercial wood, wood that is used in, for commercial purposes. It is sold for building houses and for different things. So, he says that place is very famous for logs of wood, that is timber. And he says it's a richly wooded forest all around. There's a wonderful forest. The logs are carried, they are hauled onto the lorries by elephants, and they are huge, very well fed animals. And when they turn wild, even the most experienced mahout is not. That means an elephant trainer or guide is not able to control them. And after giving this introductory speech, he would then begin explaining very in a detailed manner involving the elephants. And then one day he tells about a story. One day a tusker, that means an elephant having big tusks, ivory tusks, he escaped from the timber yard and he began roaming and stamping bushes and so on. And you know how an elephant behaves. And then he would go on to show Mahendra. He would, be so engrossed in telling the story that he would act like a mad elephant. Then he said that the elephant reached the outskirts of our town, breaking the fences down like matchsticks. That means with ease. And it came to the main road and it smashed all the stalls selling fruits and mud pots and clothes, and people were afraid, so they ran here and there. And then the elephant entered a school ground where children were playing, breaking through the brick wall. And all the boys ran into the classrooms and shut the doors tight. And the beast made a sound, grunted, and wandered about, pulling out the football goal post, tearing down the volleyball net, kicking and flattening the drum kept for water, and uprooted all the plants around the shrubs. Meanwhile, all the teachers had climbed up to the terrace and they were watching the elephant from where they saw helplessly the depredations of the elephant. Now, depredations means all the destruction caused by the elephant. There was not a soul below on the ground. The streets were empty as if the inhabitants of this entire town had suddenly disappeared. So, here, as he told the story about how an elephant went everywhere, destroying everything, and then went to a school compound and tried to, it pulled out the football goal post and tore down the volleyball net and flattened the drum which was there kept for water and pulled out all the plants. The teachers had climbed to the terrace and were watching the elephant, the destruction caused by the elephant. But there wasn't a single person around because they had heard about the elephant. They heard the sound of the elephant and people running here and there. So the streets were empty and it seemed as though there was no one. The entire town was empty and there was no one living there. Everyone had disappeared. Now let us continue reading further. I was studying in the junior class at that time and was watching the whole drama. That means Ishwaran is telling Mahendra he was in junior class and he was watching the whole drama. Means this whole scene from the rooftop. And I don't know what came over me suddenly. I grabbed a cane from the hands of one of the teachers and ran down the stairs out into the open. The elephant grunted and menacingly swung a branch of a tree which it held in its trunk. It stamped its feet, kicking up a lot of mud and dust. It looked frightening, but I moved slowly towards it, stick in hand. People were watching the scene, hypnotized from the nearby housetops. The elephant looked at me, red eyed, ready to rush towards me. It lifted its trunk and trumpeted loudly. At that moment, I moved forward and mustering all my force. Okay, so Ishwaran is telling Mahendra that at that time when this elephant went on a destruction spree, at that time he was in junior class and he was watching this whole incident from the rooftop. And then he's saying, I don't know what happened to me. Suddenly I pulled the cane, that means one stick out of my teacher's hands, and ran down the stairs into the open. And at that time the elephant was making annoying, angry sounds. And it swung the branch of a tree in its trunk and it stamped its feet, it kicked a lot of mud and dust, it looked very frightening. But Ishwaran kept moving towards it. People were watching as though they were hypnotized. They couldn't move from there. And the elephant looked and was ready to rush. But at that time, Ishwaran moved forward and with all the force that he had, he smacked, means he whacked him, he gave him one, hard hit with that stick, its third toenail on the quick. That means he hit him on the leg. And the beast means the elephant was so frightened, he was stunned for a moment and started shivering from head to foot and then it collapsed. At this moment, Ishwaran would leave the story unfinished and get up mumbling, I will be back after lighting the gas and warming up the dinner. And Mahendra, who had been listening with rapt attention, would be left hanging. When he returned, he would not pick up the thread of the story right away. Mahendra would have to remind him that the conclusion was pending. Well, a veterinary doctor was summoned to revive the animal. Ishwaran would shrug casually. 2 days later, it was led away by its mahout to the jungle. And another habit Ishwaran had was while telling a story, he would leave that story halfway and then he would say, I have this work to do. I need to go and warm up the dinner and then I have to light the gas. And then he says he would leave that story unfinished and go away. And Mahendra, poor fellow, would be listening and waiting to see how the story ended. He would be just left hanging, waiting to know what happened next, what happened next. But then Ishwaran would get up abruptly and go away. And then when he came back, he would not come back to the story. Mahendra would still be waiting. Oh, wow, I want to listen to what's happening. But he would not tell him the story right away. And then Mahendra would remind him, Ishwaran, you have to tell me what happened after that. And then he would just say in a very casual way, oh, a doctor was called. And then in order to revive the animal. And then 2 days later, the elephant trainer came and took him away to the jungle. And then Mahendra asked him, well, How did you manage to do it, Ishwaran? How did you bring down the beast? It had something to do with a Japanese art, I think, sir. Like shrug means he would just move his shoulders in a very casual manner. And then he would say, Mahendra would ask him with surprise, how did you manage to do this? Such a big elephant, and you managed to, stop him in his tracks. He says, oh, it has something to do with the Japanese art, karate or jujitsu, it's called. He says, I read about it somewhere. So then it temporarily paralyzes the nervous system, you see. So he meant to tell Mahendra that he had paralyzed the elephant in his tracks, and that's why he was brought under control. Then, not a day passed without Ishwaran recounting some story packed with adventure, horror, and suspense. Whether the story was credible or not, that means Mahendra was able to believe it or not, he enjoyed listening to it because, in his inimitable way in which it was told, Ishwaran seemed to be more than make up for an absence of a TV in Mahendra's living quarters. Now, every day Ishwaran came up with some story or the other. And whether Mahendra could believe it or not, he had such a wonderful style that no one could imitate. And then, since Mahendra did not have a television, his stories were really entertaining and kept him occupied. So he never made fun of him, or he never told him that, what kind of stories are you telling me? I don't believe you. He never said that. So, one morning when Mahendra was having breakfast, Ishwaran asked, can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir? After all, today is an auspicious day. That means it's a good day. According to our tradition, we prepare various delicacies to feed the spirits of our ancestors today, sir. So that night, Mahendra enjoyed the most delicious dinner and complimented Ishwaran on his culinary skills. So, that was about Ishwaran's storytelling, right? So one morning while Mahendra was having his breakfast before he left for work, Ishwaran asked him that, sir, can I make something special tonight? Tonight is a very, today is a very auspicious day, and according to our traditions, we make things to give to feed the spirits of the ancestors. Even here in Gujarat, you know that during the Shravan month, people make different wonderful delicacies and then offer it to the crows, or they keep it out, they offer it to God and also to the spirits of the ancestors. So Ishwaran also did the same, and that night Ishwaran prepared the most delicious dinner, and so Mahendra was so thrilled and happy. He complimented Ishwaran on his wonderful cooking skills, culinary skills. He was very pleased, but he unexpectedly launched. That means he began telling a story of the most garish account. That means something that was not the normal for him. Kept telling about the supernatural, about spirits, about ghosts, and things like that. And he told Mahendra, you know, sir, this entire factory area we are occupying was once a burial ground. He started, and Mahendra was jerked out of the pleasant reverie he had drifted into after the satisfying meal. Now, while Ishwaran told him that, a suspense story, he said, oh, there are a lot of bhoot pret over here because the place where we are living was once a burial ground where they used to bury dead bodies. And so he got the shock of his life because he was, in a very pleasant state of mind after that wonderful, delicious dinner that he had. And when he heard Ishwaran telling him that they were living on a burial ground, he says, I knew on the very first day itself when I saw a human skull lying on the path. Even now, I come across a number of skulls and bones, he continued telling him. So, for that moment, Mahendra was very shocked. He went on to narrate how he sometimes saw ghosts at night. He saw booth at night. I am not easily frightened by these things, sir. I am a brave fellow. But one horrible ghost of a woman, which appears off and on at midnight during the full moon, it's an ugly creature with matted hair and a shriveled face, like a skeleton holding a fetus in its arms. And then he said that that was not the first time he had come there to that place. He had found bones and a skull, and then he kept on seeing so many bones around that area. Mahendra never knew about it. And then he went on to tell Mahendra that he even saw ghosts at night. And he said, "But oh, I'm a brave man. I'm not easily frightened. But there is one horrible ghost of a woman which comes on full moon night on Purnima. And it's a very ugly ghost. It has hair which is stuck together and a face which is like, all shriveled up like an old person, like a skeleton, and it has a fetus. That means a small baby in its arms. The dead body of a baby in its arms." Mahendra shivered at the description and interrupted rather sharply. He didn't like listening to this kind of story. "You are crazy, Ishwaran. There are no such things as ghosts or spirits. It's all a figment of your imagination. Get your digestive system examined and maybe your head as well. You are talking nonsense." And so he left the room and he retired for the night, means he went off to sleep, expecting Ishwaran to sulk for a few days because he had scolded him. He, first of all, Mahendra didn't like listening to ghost stories and spirits and so on. And so he told him, "Ishwaran, are you mad? There are no such things as ghosts or spirits. It's just something that you've made up." He says, "Get your digestive system checked and get your head checked also." And he said, "You're talking utter rubbish, nonsense." And so he left for the night. He went off to sleep. And he thought that Ishwaran would, be annoyed for a couple of days at the scolding. But the very next morning, he was surprised to find Ishwaran very cheerful and talkative as ever. From that day on, Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed with a certain unease. That means even though he saw that Ishwaran was not feeling annoyed or angry, but in his mind he was not at peace. Every night, that little feeling he got, so he would look into the darkness outside the window next to his bed, trying to make sure that there was no movement of dark shapes in his vicinity, means in the surrounding area. But what he could see was only a sea of darkness with twinkling lights of the factory miles away. He had always liked to admire the milk white landscape on full moon nights. Normally, before Ishwaran had told him about all these ghosts and spirits, he liked to look outside and look at all the scenery in the moonlight. But after listening to Ishwaran's story of the female ghost, he avoided. That means he was frightened, no? So he avoided looking out of the window altogether when the moon was full. Then, one night, Mahendra was woken up from his sleep by a low moan close to his window. At first, he put it down to a cat prowling around for mice, but the sound was too guttural for a cat. He resisted the curiosity to look out, lest he should behold a sight that would stop his heart. But the wailing became louder and less feline. He could not resist the temptation any more. Lowering himself to the level of the window sill, he looked out at the white sheet of moonlight outside. There, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat and fell back on the pillow, panting. As he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience, he began to reason with himself and finally concluded that it must have been some sort of autosuggestion, some trick that his subconscious mind had played on him. So, here the meaning of the word guttural means it's a sound produced in the throat which is very, harsh sounding, a kind of a harsh sound. And feline is relating to cats or member of the cat family. So, one night when he was woken up from his sleep by a little sound, crying sound, he thought it was a cat sound, but it was too thick and uh, harsh sounding kind of a sound. Then that sound became louder, and he could not resist the temptation. He thought, let me look outside the window, what is making that sound? And he looked outside, and then he saw one dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. And Mahendra broke into a sweat and he fell back into the pillow, panting. And then, as some time passed, he began to think. He thought that maybe I've been thinking about this Chudel, I've been thinking about this ghost lady, and that is why I saw what was in my mind. But by the time he got up in the morning, had a bath, and came out to have his breakfast, The horror of the previous night had faded from his memory. Ishwaran greeted him at the door with his lunch packet and with his bag, and just as Mahendra was stepping out, Ishwaran grinned and said, "Sir, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with the fetus in his arms? You were so angry with me for imagining things. Well, you saw her yourself last night. I came running, hearing the sound of moaning that was coming from your room, and a chill went down Mahendra's spine. He did not wait for Ishwaran to complete his sentence. He hurried away to his office and handed in his papers, resolving to leave the haunted place the very next day. So, as we can see, children, here Ishwaran was such a good storyteller that his story about ghosts and spirit had such an unnerving, disquieting effect on Mahendra that he actually heard the sound of the booth. Heard the sound of the lady ghost, and he also saw that form. And the next morning, Ishwaran confirmed it, saying that, "Sir, you wouldn't believe me, right? But you yourself saw it last night." And so Mahendra couldn't take it anymore. He didn't wait for him to complete the sentence. He didn't wait for him to complete the sentence. So he hurried to his office and handed in his papers. And then, he didn't want to work there any longer. He wanted to leave. And so the effect of Ishwaran's storytelling, Ishwaran was such a good storyteller that he almost made him so frightened that he had to leave that job and go to another place. So we can see how good Ishwaran was as a storyteller. Now let us look at the questions and listen to the explanation. In what way is Ishwaran an asset? That means he is a plus point to Mahendra. Well, Ishwaran is an asset. He's a plus point. He's a bonus to him because he goes with him everywhere. He cooks for him, washes his clothes, cleans the whole shed or the living place, and entertains him with his unique stories. Then, how does Ishwaran describe the uprooted tree on the highway? And what effect does he want to create in his listeners? Ishwaran would not tell things in a very simple manner, but he would raise his eyebrows, raise his arms in a dramatic gesture. He would say that he was walking down the empty highway all alone and he saw a huge beast. He thought of going back, but then he went closer and saw that it was a tree that had fallen on the road, and the branches looked like the beast's arms and legs that were spread out on the road. He wanted to create a scene in the listener's mind in order to captivate him, to make him be fascinated. He wanted to create curiosity in the minds of the listener as to what happened next. They would be wanting to know what happened next in the story. And then how did he narrate the story of the Tusker? Does it appear to be plausible? That means, can you believe that? Well, first of all, he gave an introduction that his village was surrounded by a dense forest, the wood was processed at the timber yards, and the logs of timber were transported onto the lorries by the elephants. He also said that the elephants were huge, and in case one of them went mad, it could not be controlled even by experienced mahouts. And he would be so caught up in the storytelling that he would get up from the floor and jump and stamp his feet, imitating a mad elephant. So he put in a lot of effort to make it very believable for the listener. Why does the author, question number 4, why does the author say that Ishwaran seemed to be more than makeup for the absence of a TV in Mahendra's living quarters? Well, Ishwaran seemed to more than make up for the absence of a TV in Mahendra's living quarters because his stories were so entertaining that every night they made up. That means Mahendra never missed having a TV because Ishwaran was better than a TV. He would, tell him thrillers and wonderful stories, and, he was so amusing that he never missed having a TV. All the stories were full of horror, suspense, and adventure. Then, question number 5. Mahendra calls ghosts or spirits a figment of the imagination. What happens to him on a full moon night? Now, Mahendra scolds Ishwaran and says ghosts do not exist. On a full moon night, he woke up from his sleep as he heard someone crying. At first, he thought it was a cat which was hunting mice. But as the sound grew louder and harsher, he was tempted to peep outside the window, and in the white moonlight, he saw a dark, shady figure holding a bundle in his arms. Initially means in the beginning he got scared, but he overcame that fright and he thought that no, this cannot be true. It must be my mind that is playing a trick on me. So the next day, the presence of the ghost was confirmed by Ishwaran, and then Mahendra realized he had actually seen a ghost the previous night. He was so frightened he did not want to live at a haunted place, and so he went and gave his resignation from the job. So can you think of some other ending for this story? I think the story has ended in a wonderful way. I cannot think of another ending for the story. If you can think of it, children, you can write some other ending for the story. If you think that you could write another ending. Is Ishwaran a fascinating storyteller? Discuss that with your family members. And what would be the qualities of a good storyteller? Try to use these qualities and tell your family members a story. Now, the suggested reading that is there is The Storyteller by Saki. Saki is a pen name and his actual name is Hector Hugh Munro. The next one is Ghost Stories, edited by Ruskin Bond, and The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde has written The Selfish Giant, which is in standard 8th. And then Pret in the House is also written by Ruskin Bond. So, all these are wonderful stories that are suggested for you to read. I hope you have understood and enjoyed the lesson and that you will write the question answers in your fair book. Take time to read the lesson several times because then you will be acquainted with the new words in the lesson and that will help improve your vocabulary. So, thank you, children, and have a nice day.